Newsline.
Good morning and welcome to Newsline. I'm Sonali, Wanigabaduge. Our guest this morning is attorney at law Rajeev Amarasuriya. Good morning, Rajeev.
Good morning, Sonali.
Fantastic to have you
nice
with us.
Nice to be on the show.
Now, you're contesting for the post of secretary at the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, and elections are just next week.
Yes, next Thursday.
Talk to us about this.
As you know, the Bar Association, we have the office of the president and the secretary. The incumbent president, Mr. Indatissa, is on his second term, and he's continuing for the second year. The post of secretary opens up with the term of Mr. Kaushal Navaratna coming to an end of March. So that is also for this big post. There's a vacancy, and that is for which I'm contesting.
Rajeev, you come across as a very young and dynamic lawyer. Your CV is fantastic, very impressive. What do you propose to bring into the profession if you are elected as secretary of the BASL?
Yes, Sonali. This is the post of secretary. So the administration of the BASL comes under the purview of the secretary. I actually, about September last year, I came out and said that I was intending to come forward to the post of secretary, and I wrote to the membership, setting out my intention, and also gave a brief introduction of myself. In that letter to the membership, I informed the membership that I plan to visit and meet as many lawyers as possible. As you know, Sonali, we have about 85 bars across the country. The Bar Association is a mother organization, and each in 85 geographic locations where there are courts, we have separate bars. And so when I wrote to them in September, wrote to the membership in September, I said, I will meet as many of you and try to ascertain what are the burning issues, what are your needs and requirements, and then I will formulate an action plan. So having visited as many bars and met as many lawyers as I could, about 2 weeks back, I finalized my action plan for the post of secretary. And I have presented this to the membership. You have a copy of it with you now. Basically, my theme or the focus will be to have a strong, independent, and professional BSL geared to the needs of the membership. Ultimately, this is an organization, association which represents the members. So we have to first and foremost give paramount interest, focus, and represent the needs and requirements of our membership. So that is our primary focus, and that will be my primary focus, to address whatever areas which have not been addressed, and by continuing to do what has been done, maybe look at doing things a little better. So in that, I have identified 3 specific areas which I want to focus on. One is geographic reach and connectivity. As you know, the Bar Association headquarters is in Colombo, and we have to deal with 85 bars, 20,000 lawyers spread across the country. And so from that point of view, I want to take the Bar Association out to our membership, out to the bars, and have more connectivity, more communication, and make it a closer body, which is something I think which is important, because we have to have our membership. It's a very strong body. 20,000 lawyers across the country is a very strong force, and we need to. I want to connect this group even further. Then the second limb of my action plan is to enhance professionalism. I think we have to also focus. We are a professional body. We are not to that extent a trade union or some other body. So we need to be very professional in our focus. Everything we need to do must be professional. And I have seen a lot of other institutes in Sri Lanka and overseas which have over the years developed. A lot of good things are happening. So I want to focus on that aspect, that everything we do will be more professional going forward. Then I think the third limb of my action plan, we must look at the future. And how does one look at the future? We must invest in our juniors. We must invest in our junior. We must focus our attention. We have a wonderful lot of seniors. We need to focus our attention on how we develop our juniors, the junior bar, to take on this profession. Because 5, 10, 15 years down the line, the juniors of today will be the seniors. So we need, so that it is on that basis that I have formulated my action plan.
Right. Now, Rajeev, you spoke about how you want to strive to make the BASL an independent, impartial body. But we have seen in the past how this has proven to be a challenge. There has been politicization of the BASL. There have been situations where the BASL hasn't even been consulted when bringing in new legislation, which is completely atrocious.
So as in any organization, any country, these problems arise. We were dealing with humans. I think a lot of those problems are, I mean, presently I don't see too much of an issue, but I think moving forward I have clearly come on the basis that on an independent professional basis, I'm strongly of the view that the Bar Association must be completely independent of any political influence. But having said that, you need to also work together with whichever government
Absolutely.
is in power, because end of the day we need to, on one hand, we need to safeguard, protect and further the interest of our membership on one, and two, of course, the BASL being the representative body of the lawyers, we need to look into issues like rule of law, freedoms and things like that. So we need to work with whoever is in power. But also, having said that, while it's working, if there's anything happening, anything wrong which has been done, something which is outside the framework, then we need to stand up firmly and say, well, this is wrong. And if one is independent, one can take that position. You are not under obligation to anyone.
Another issue that has been spoken of time and time again is that of laws delays, and the fact that Sri Lanka doesn't seem to be understanding this concept of technology, how we can actually use technology to ease the burden on the general public, the litigant. Why is technology not being taken into account?
Yes.
Even in the simplest of procedures?
2 years ago, I was part of a delegation of the Bar Association, which visited Malaysia and Singapore,
right,
on this issue of how we manage laws delays, how we manage these professional organizations. Now, something which I learned, and all of us in our delegation learned, was that a lot of the problems we had, or we had in the 70s, both Singapore and Malaysia also faced laws delays, backlog of cases, getting over, all those issues were in place.
Right.
However, those two countries found ways and means out of it. They brought in new legislation, they brought in technology, they had sometimes fairly strict rules for certain periods to get over the backlog. Now we have a huge backlog. So but however, we in Sri Lanka have not been able to address this for all these years. I think one way to get over this, as you rightly mentioned, is technology, because many governments, the association also on several occasions over the years have sought to get over this problem of laws delays, but we haven't. I mean, to some extent there is some development. There are some new procedures have been brought in. Civil Procedure Code has been, as you know, amended in certain aspects, but still the problem is there. And I strongly believe that the only way one could get over this is taking on technology, and not just basically operationalizing the process. But I think we need to get to a level where we must look at where we carry the big briefs and go into court. But these things can be on iPads and tablets. So judges also have to go through these big files. They can be, they can have some kind of process where they get. Now I think a lot of the boardrooms in Sri Lanka now use the tablet where all the papers are uploaded. So likewise, I think we need to look at it like that. And also, I think a problem which we face was that I think the staff of the registries are not IT savvy. They have not been trained. So you can't go and force them to take on technology if they are not competent. So either we need to train those officers to take on technology, or give them some other duties, and bring in some new people in who can drive the process and bring the necessary changes. But I think it is imperative that we look at it from all aspects. Even from the Bar Association's point of view, I think we need to embrace technology. We need to use to have better communication. I'm looking at maybe possibly a digital application where all lawyers could have it on their phone, have access to the Bar Association activities. to maybe court lists, maybe announcements, maybe notices, new regulation. Because today everyone is on a phone. Everything you look on a phone. I mean now there's if you want to search something, you go to Google from your phone. So I think we need to also now from the point of the Bar Association also be able to be connected to our membership through digitally.
So you are hopeful of coming up with a plan for technological advancement using technology in law going forward?
Yes. Well, my role is for the post of I'll be the secretary, so
I understand.
My primary focus will be the Bar Association. So
of course, but the Bar Association has a pivotal role to play in this.
So first and foremost, I want to bring in technology for the Bar Association. But I think through the Bar Association, we need to lobby, we need to create that environment where we can embrace technology. We can, and also just embracing means not investing a couple $100 million putting computers and say, well, you have technology. But I think we need to train the staff, train the judges, train the court staff. The lawyers must be able to take on technology. So I think there's a lot we can do, and if we can do this, the boundaries are limitless.
When you spoke of lobbying, another point that I wanted to raise, Rajeev, is the fact that we don't see multi-sectoral consultation when it comes to dealing with issues. For example, if there's a new draft bill that is being spoken of, there's the politicians who will discuss it. Sometimes the Bar Association will be unaware of it, or there will be individual lawyers talking about the pros and cons of the bill. There'll be protests going on, demonstrations, and it's such a mess most of the time. So there is no concerted effort to, one, read the draft bill, two, ensure that the general public has access to it, and there is no proper system where people have an understanding of it. So don't you think that the Bar Association has a role to play in engaging with other stakeholders, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Education, etc., and the people, the litigants?
Yes, very much so. I think the Bar Association, as a representative body of lawyers in Sri Lanka, has a duty to get involved in the legal process, the legal reform amendments. I think, and whenever the Bar Association has been called upon to give its opinion, it has. But I think we have to go one step beyond. If something is happening outside our purview, then we need to go out there and say, well, this is something we need to be part of it. I think, like you rightly said, you need to have stakeholder review. When it's any good thing, there are several perspectives, several viewpoints. Sometimes the promoters of some say piece of legislation might not see what the repercussions on some side is. And sometimes even if the process is delayed by 2 months or 3 months more, it's always better to go through that consultative process, then promulgate the legislation, and then have problems when you're operationalizing it. So I think from one is I think the government, those who bring bills forward must necessarily try to consult the Bar Association on the views, and we have a diverse membership. That doesn't, when you say the Bar Association, that doesn't mean the office bearers. Say there is a specific piece of legislation coming out, we have experts who are members, so then we can invite them to form some kind of group or committee and to go into it and provide our observations on the piece of legislation. And so it is vital, and as you said, it's also vital that others, even the public, you have some public consultation. You have there are those who are interested in certain areas, get the involvement of all of them, and then go through a wholesome process.
So you do agree that the BASL should be a force to reckon with?
No, there is no doubt about it. In the Bar Association, any legal matter happening in the country, or any reform, rule of law, any issue, the Bar Association must be involved. And there's absolutely no doubt about that.
All right, so lots of work to be done then. On that note, we're going for a short commercial break. We're in conversation with Rajeev Amarasuriya, attorney at law. We'll be right back.
Newsfirst NewsLine.
Democracy, rule of law,
economy, transparency, social justice. To understand the policy of politics, 360-degree review on Sri Lankan political landscape. The exclusive English political talk show in Sri Lanka. Face the Nation every Monday at 9:30 p.m.
Good evening. Welcome to Brainbusters with Slip Season 2.
27 schools across the island, 27 selected students, testing their brains to win the ultimate championship, the Brainbusters with Slit Season 2.
Brainbusters with Slit, Saturday at 6:30 p.m.
Alutma Sindhu Ununueva Alutma TikToks Ununueva Alutma Games and Challenges Ununueva Mekom Balana Satidas Payama Dangaralla Balana
දඟරැල්ල සතියේ දින පහේම උදෑසන 10ට.
Newsfirst NewsLine.
Welcome back to Newsfirst Newsline. We're in conversation with Rajeev Amarasuriya, attorney at law, who will be contesting for the post of Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, with the election coming up just next Thursday. Rajeev, we were discussing the immense challenges that you'll have to face in the event you are elected Secretary of the Bar Association. One of the other issues that I've noticed time and time again is the fact that young lawyers from Colombo have this added advantage of being conversant in English, as opposed to lawyers from the north, the south, the east, eastern parts of the country, who have to revert to the vernacular media, either Sinhala or Tamil, because of which they are at a comparative disadvantage. Do you think that English language needs to be sort of inculcated more, or how do you view this?
Yes, Sonali, the proceedings in the original court is in the vernacular.
Correct.
And so, to that extent, say outside the appellate courts are, the proceedings are in English, but all other courts it is in Sinhalese. Sinhala or Tamil, depending on the administrative language being used. And to that extent, English is not really used in the original courts and in the outstation courts. The difficulty one would have is that a lot of the publications, the books, come out in English. A lot of the textbooks, a lot of the authors, especially the ones we get from overseas. So to that extent, if one, and also the law reports come out in English. So to that extent, I think education system also needs to make English, it is an option. You can even at the university, at law college, you can do in all three languages. But I think you need to have some component of these exams, whether it's the final or whether it's some subject where you are compelled to up your standard in English. And again, I must tell you, you can't suddenly bring this in. You have to inform the students well in advance that they have to face this at some point, so they also get an opportunity to up their standard, to go maybe if they want to have have some additional learning, and then get to that level. So to that extent, well, the disadvantage is from that point of view.
Right. Also, let's talk a bit about access to justice. The Legal Aid Commission of Sri Lanka provides legal assistance to persons who can't afford legal aid, legal care. However, do you think this process is holistic enough? Do you believe that, for example, young lawyers or lawyers who just take oaths need to spend at least 2 or 3 years mandatorily providing legal aid, which will sort of benefit the system.
Okay, that's a nice concept if that can be implemented, but there is a benefit to the young lawyer as well, because you will get briefs and cases which you would not if
normally
you are working with somebody else. The Legal Aid Commission is doing a wonderful job. Actually, the workload of the Legal Aid Commission I realized only when I started traveling to so many courts in the last couple of months. But every outstation court, or most courts, have a legal aid center. So there is a lawyer or two attached to those courts. So it's not just that we have a center in Colombo, but every court has, and anyone can go into those offices and get assistance by way of legal aid. So if we can, and those officers are permanent officers. So quite apart from the lawyers who take briefs, you have permanent officers who work for the Legal Aid Commission in all courts. And so if we can introduce a system where there is a requirement, I mean, even if it's mandatory, I don't see a problem. But it's good for the lawyer who's starting up. Where you will immediately start getting briefs, and that's something we must encourage juniors to do. Work with a senior, but whilst you do that, go and take a few briefs. And having said that, Sonali, sometimes one thinks that there are seniors. Every lawyer works under the senior. That is not the case, because there's a limit to how many seniors we have. So a lot of lawyers around the country very soon on start working on their own.
Right.
And the challenge is, how does one get work? So if legal aid could be one way of securing work, that could be work, that would be good. And I think also on that line, I think we need to also look at, there is a very nominal payment made when you take a legal aid case. But if we can enhance that amount, if we can work some funding and say, well, make it a little lucrative, and say, well, legal, it's not as much as what you get from private client, but if you can get something worthwhile, then there'll be more juniors who'd go and take up more legal aid cases, and through that we can address the issue of access to justice.
Right, fantastic. Another, well, it's not controversial per se, but another issue that lawyers across the country face is that of touting. How can the Bar Association address this?
Yes, now touting amounts to an offence. It works both ways, but how I feel, and I've seen this problem, I've seen it happening also. We need, you can prosecute 1 or 2 lawyers, and then you can say, well, send a message out saying, well, this should not be done, but it will continue to be done. So I think what we need to do is address the problem itself. Sometimes, when, as I mentioned earlier, when a lawyer starts up, the lawyer has difficulty in obtaining work. It's demand and supply. If a client which client would come to a raw junior if you have option of going to someone with more experience?
Right.
So we need to find some way where we help our juniors obtain, secure the work, and legal aid, as you mentioned, may be one option. Then we need to also create an environment, bring in peer pressure, because we need to, because touting is something which can happen in the open. It can also happen, you might not know it's happening, but it might be taking place.
Right.
So even if you take, say, legal action, you prosecute, people might stop. There may be, this is not something which is across the profession, but there are instances of touting. So if we say prosecute, then it won't happen openly, but then it will still take place somewhere else. So we need to address the issues. We need to also bring peer pressure, because the lawyers in those courts would know as to who is doing this and who is not. A lot of the touting takes place together with the police officers.
Yeah.
So we need to also address that issue, and I think we need to work with the IGP and the National Police Commission to bring in systems and procedures to ensure that the environment for touting is not there. Address it so that the opportunities are less.
Now, when you take the Sri Lanka Law College, the majority of law students are female. I think even the lawyers who pass out, a majority consists of women. But if you go to either the Court of Appeal or Supreme Court, it's predominantly male lawyers who take center stage. Why do you think the reason for this is?
I think when we look at our membership, I think the demographics have changed, because when you say lawyer, you sometimes think black coat, black tie, but the lawyers are actually working in institutions. We have corporate lawyers. We have hundreds and thousands of lawyers working in the government sector. So when you come out as a lawyer, you have an option, whether you go into court practice, which is a little bit more different. The times are different. You have to work late nights. Your times are not 8 to 5.
Yeah, but there can't be, surely, I mean, even if you take court practice, you can't have 99% of lawyers in active practice.
No, I don't think that figure is correct. It's not. I have gone a lot to the outstations, and it's not.
I'm talking about the superior courts.
The superior courts.
Yeah. No, I mean it's look. I mean it's up for discussion.
Yeah. No, but fine. So the numbers are less. As you rightly said, the output is more, but in final practice, the numbers are less. So I think it's a choice one has. We have
is it that women aren't being encouraged, or is it that women are afraid of practice?
It's not a case of encouragement. I mean, all of us, it's a lot of hard work you get in the system. It's not being a lawyer is not an easy thing. As you know, doctors work late hours, we work late hours. So we sometimes hardly get sleep. You're studying a brief the next day. You study until you finish your brief. You're studying. You don't stop, and then you get up and go to court. So it's not easy. But having said that, the numbers, as you rightly said, are less. So there is probably at some point disinterest to continue with the profession. A lot of lady lawyers join the profession. If you go to court, you see a lot of the juniors. It's fairly equal. But at some point, I think the option is many choose the option of joining a corporate, choose the option of joining the government sector. And some of the male lawyers continue in practice. But what is important to look at is that the court lawyers alone don't represent the profession. We have 20,000. We don't have 20,000 lawyers practicing.
Understood. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on this, and also we're on to our final 2 minutes. There was a bit of a well, not a controversy per se, but the court attire of female lawyers, has it been resolved now?
No,
I mean, initially it was sari in 4 colors, black, white, purple and grey, and then we had female lawyers wearing the full suit. And now, is it unresolved, or is it?
Yeah, there was a gazette came out with a prescribed the full suit, that outfit. However, it had not been a date for implementation, or effective date had not been prescribed.
Okay.
So therefore it didn't come into operation. I don't know how that happened, but that is what has happened. So now they are looking. There's a committee which has been appointed looking into the dress code,
right,
and seeing whether there needs to be some further adjustments. Of course, my personal view is that it must be very simplified. And I mean, we don't need. This is not a rigorous system. We have to. What is important is that you must have a professional attire. You must be respectful to court. So as long as you maintain that, then of course you work within, like you said, 4 colors or whatever. So anyway, the process is ongoing. Hopefully I'll also be involved in the process.
Yeah.
And my thinking is that I've clearly said that. So
fantastic. I think you'll get the female vote.
I don't think we need to take this profession back to several decades ago.
Absolutely. Rajeev, you have 1.5 minutes. What, in conclusion, do you wish to bring to this noble profession in the event you are elected as Secretary of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka for 2020-2021?
Yes. This is a noble profession. This is a profession which comprising of the lawyers, 20,000 lawyers in this country. it's a force to be reckoned with. I want to bring this 20,000 together on a professional basis, not on any political lines, as a professional body which stands up for what is right, which will also object to something which, if anything which is wrong which is happening, we will stand up and say, well, don't do this, this is wrong. And we need to take our profession to the level where if we say something is right or say something is wrong, the powers that be will listen to us. And there would not be any division among us. If we can't have two sets of lawyers, two groups of lawyers, we must be one. And those, certainly we are entitled to our political opinions, political views, but that is something which must happen outside. If it's a legal issue, if it's an issue which affects our lawyers, if it's an issue which affects the rule of law of the country, then we must stand up in one voice. And my hope and ambition and dream would be that if we can bring together this profession as a strong profession, where we can all, be proud of, if say the Bar Association says, well, this is wrong, the lawyers will follow suit and the country will say, well, this is wrong or this is right. So that is what I would like to see the Bar Association being.
All right, fantastic. Rajeev, Amarasuriya, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Newsline. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks, Sonali.
News First Newsline.